Hello, my name is Alison Woodall, and I am the guest interviewer for the Leaving California YouTube channel. And today I'm talking to Linda Hoverman O'Neal, and she's a realtor in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Linda, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, so for many people, they may not know where Fort Mill is. So can you explain where it is in South Carolina in relation to other cities in the South?
Yes, Fort Mill is just south of Charlotte, North Carolina. You can actually go to Carowinds theme park and put 1 foot in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and 1 foot in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we're a bedroom community of Charlotte. The majority of the people that live here work in Charlotte, North Carolina. The benefits of living in Fort Mill, South Carolina are numerous. So you have all the benefits of being close to a large city where we have the Carolina Panthers, we have basketball, we have concerts, we have theater, we have an international airport, we have great shopping. Yes, we do have a Neiman Marcus and a Nordstrom, and anything you want that is similar to what you have in Costa Mesa, I think it's called South Coast Plaza. So we do have a very upscale mall. I like living where I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, because we have lower property taxes, lower cost of living, nationally ranked schools, great golf courses. We're right on a lake called Lake Wiley that is a huge lake that encompasses both North and South Carolina. So there's always lots to do here.
All right. Wow. Well, that was a very good promo for where you live. You made me want to move there. So, well, I would love to learn a little bit more about you. So when we talked earlier, you said that you had a military background. Where are some of the places that you've lived?
I do. My dad was in the Air Force, and he retired from the Air Force when I was just 13. I went to 3 different first grades, and we have lived as far north as Newfoundland, Canada. The furthest west I got to live during my military days was Lubbock, Texas, land of prairie dogs and tumbleweeds. And we spent a lot of time in Alabama. Alabama was probably my favorite place we lived in when I was in the military with my dad. We lived on Maxwell Air Force Base. And then at 13, we retired in my parents' hometown. They were originally from York County and Cherokee County, South Carolina. So we moved back home and built a home there, and I stayed there until my freshman year of college. In the Carolinas, you're never going to lose your shirt in real estate because it's just a gradual 3 to 5% appreciation, but you're never going to make a killing like you would in California, where you'd have 20% appreciation in a year. So it was always a slow, steady, predictable market. Until 2020.
Well, that's good to know, because my husband's from Georgia, and I always feel Georgia and South Carolina are very similar.
Sister states.
And so I own 2 houses in Georgia, and I could sell both of my houses in Georgia and still not be able to afford a house in California. Yeah. But they have steadily just increased slightly. And so, yeah, what you're saying seems very true based on I'm not a realtor, so my knowledge of real estate is very superficial. I would love to talk more about South Carolina, because the thing that people always worry about when they leave California for the South is bugs and humidity. So having lived in California and South Carolina, how do you deal with bugs and humidity?
Okay, well, you've lived in Georgia, so you know, yes, we have humidity. Yes, we have some bugs. Excuse me. But when I lived in California, I had invasions of black widow spiders in my garage, the likes that I've never experienced here. So we always had bugs, awful bugs there too, the earwigs and the centipedes and just bugs. Now here, so the bug thing, I don't think that's a big difference. We have our lawn sprayed for mosquitoes, so we don't have mosquitoes. And I also have the pest control service, and they come quarterly. So the bug problem is pretty much taken care of. So the South is hot. We have 4 distinct seasons of the year. They're all pretty mild, in my opinion. Winter here, very mild. You might sporadically get a snowstorm. If you do, it is awesome. We call them snow days. Southern people can't drive in snow, so everything shuts. The kids get sent home from school, everything closes, because Southerners and snow and driving don't mix. So snow days are great. We usually if you get more than 1 day, it's awesome. We did have 3 days once. It was so fun. It's like a play day for 3 days. Spring is glorious. Oh my gosh, so much natural beauty here. You have to see it to experience it. There's nothing like it. It is very, very green here. The skies are very, very blue. We have clean air, distinct seasons, lots of rain. Summer is hot. July being our hottest month. Right now, we're having a seasonably cool June. Temperatures in the 80s in the day, not very humid, and the nights even in the 50s, which that's not the norm, because our norm is in July, it's more, 91, I think, is the average temperature in the 70s in the evening. You do not need a jacket at night here. Unlike Southern California, when I moved to California, and I remember one night I went out, and I'd grown up since I was 13 here, and you never needed a jacket at night. So we went to the beach and I had no jacket. I had just my shorts on. It was so cold. That is the big difference. The desert weather and the desert air, and then the ocean breeze, much cooler. Summers are warm. Falls are glorious. So much color, very hard to describe. We water ski. We're in the water here from about March or April until October, November. You can be in the lake, you can water ski without a wetsuit at that time.
Wonderful.
But it's cold water. It's warm right now. Right now, the water temperature is probably close to 78, 80, just perfect.
Wonderful. And so you mentioned a lake that is near Fort Mill. What? Tell me a little bit more about that lake.
Fort Mill and Tega Cay and Clover, York, and Rock Hill all are located on Lake Wylie, South Carolina. Lake Wylie goes all the way over into North Carolina. So you also have Gaston County and Mecklenburg sharing Lake Wylie. It's a big, beautiful lake, great for water skiing, lots and lots of coves. Where it differs from California lakes is most of it's residential. There's housing on all of the lake. There's only one restaurant that I know of on the lake. There's a few marinas. It's mainly residential. And then you'll have some state parks, some beautiful state parks where you can go for the day and kayak or canoe or, rent a paddle boat. So the lake, this is just one of 3 lakes that we have in our area on Greater Charlotte, because if you go north of Lake Wylie, you also have Mountain Island Lake, and then go a little further north, you have Lake Norman, which is about 2.5 to 3 times the size of Lake Wylie. And that encompasses a lot of Mecklenburg County and other counties in North Carolina. Equally as beautiful, if not even more beautiful, because it's so big.
Wow. Okay. So lots of things to do. What is your market like right now? Is it a very hot market, or is it still quite accessible?
Okay. So, I've been in the business 36 years. And I feel like a beginner right now in this market because it's like nothing I've ever experienced before. For example, I launched a new listing today over in Indian Land, South Carolina, which is adjacent to Fort Mill. We're on the market at $295,000. By the way, here, $295,000 buys you 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2-car garage on a beautiful lot, approximately 1,700 square feet in a great community with amenities that was built in 2005. We'll probably sell between $315,000 and $325,000 because that is our market. For every listing, there are at least 15 offers, if not more. So, most of my acquaintances think, gosh, you must be doing really, really well in real estate since the market's so hot. It's like, well, as a listing agent, yes, but as a buyer's agent, no. I've got about a 1 in 15 chance of getting my offer accepted because there's so much competition.
Wow. And do you have any suggestions for people who, things people can do in a market that is a seller's market rather than a buyer's market? Because I think a lot of people get nervous that they want to move to a state, but don't think they'll find a house. Do you have any guidance?
Yes, I do. Do all of your homework up front. Don't wait until last minute to get a pre-approval letter. Have that completely done so that if you do submit an offer, have that ready to go with it. Don't be afraid of doing sight unseen, but write an offer where you still have some contingencies as far as inspection and repairs. I've actually seen people forfeit inspections and repairs, and as a seasoned agent, that makes me really nervous. But I've seen I've seen buyers forfeit inspections, appraisals, repairs, everything. And the worst case scenario, if there's somewhere you really want to go to, move and rent an apartment. Get to know the area. So you don't own a home for a year. It's okay, because prices will soften in time. There's definitely, I will tell you, from being in the business this long, this market reminds me of 1991, 92 in California, where we just climb, and the cocktail conversation every night was about pricing and how much their home had gone up. And that market wasn't driven by lender bad decisions. That market was driven by pricing. And that's exactly what I'm saying right now again, is pricing. People being willing to overpay. And that's all well and good until people have mortgages and they're suddenly upside down. Most people are paying with money out of their pockets because they've sold their home for $50,000 more in another state. So that's all well and good until they're putting down 5%, low down payment, where if a correction happens, that's normally where it starts happening, is people that don't have as much equity, because there's no way people can pull to survive if there's a job loss. They don't have the funds to pull from.
Well, I think that's great advice to rent. And I mean, if you're really, really desperate to leave, you can always go and live in a travel trailer.
That was what I was going to say, is, if you're selling, you've got money there, buy a motorhome, travel this beautiful country. We did that. That was my biggest adventure when we sold in California. We left on Memorial Day, 94. And we took 3.5 weeks to get across country in our motorhome. We had a motorhome when we pulled our boat. And we looked like Ma and Pa Kettle, because we were the Clampetts, because we just had a cab over motorhome. It wasn't anything really fancy, but it was fabulous. We went through California, Arizona, New Mexico, into Texas, went to see my sister in Oklahoma, down through New Orleans and Louisiana, Mississippi and Alabama. It was a fabulously fun trip.
Yeah, I did it in reverse. I actually, when we moved to California, we went from Tampa, Florida, and we took 6 weeks this summer. So the height of COVID, we actually lived in a travel trailer for 18 months, and I would never live in a house again. I loved the freedom of the travel trailer, and I had 2 kids and a dog and homeschooled. And so I always say to people, if you really want to move somewhere, you will find a way, and you just downsize and you adapt. And the taking a trip is amazing. And if you
it's the best. That time with your kids is so special.
Yeah.
We had 2 kids and a cat, and it was just so special. So if it were me and I were relocating, I would prioritize what's most important to you. When I left California in 94, it was my kids. I wanted my kids to grow up in a more family-oriented area, because where I lived in Southern California was not family-oriented. It just wasn't where I lived. So I wanted a good place to raise my kids. I wanted good schools. I wanted recreational activities, and I wanted a lake. And I wanted a big, booming market where I could sell real estate. Now, granted, at the time, I think Charlotte was probably only like 300,000 total people, and it's 1.2 million now. So, but it was still big enough to make a living then. And Charlotte has always been a magnet for voluntary relocation. People sell their homes elsewhere, voluntarily move to the greater Charlotte area. I can't tell you how many clients that I've had over the years that, for whatever reason, they sold their homes wherever. And we are a market where we attract a lot of people from the Northeast, and some, I don't know if Chicago and Ohio are considered Midwest, but whatever they are, right there, we have a lot of folks from Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. The colder state areas want to come to the South where it's warmer. They're already used to humidity though, because humidity exists pretty much anywhere to the east of, I think, New Mexico.
Yeah, well, wonderful. So you mentioned a house that was around about 300,000. Is that kind of like obviously you have expensive houses and cheaper houses. Is that around about the average home price in your market, or does it vary a lot?
In 2020 and 2021, my average home price has gotten closer to 500,000 for me. where I've been selling properties now 500,000. You got to remember, a lot of these properties are 2,700 to 3,200 square feet. Nice homes. 500,000 can buy you a great property here. But I also work with a lot of people. It's either corporate relo or relocation where they've been transferred, or voluntary where they've made money in other states and they come here, and our prices are much more attractive than where they're currently living.
So if you were on a really tight budget, I mean, do you have a reasonable, houses for 150 to 200,000, or are those much harder to find in your area?
It's harder to find anything under 200,000 right now in the area. There was a time when it was very much possible. I would say that like the townhomes that were selling a few years ago that were in the 170s are probably close now to 225.
Okay, well, it's good. I just always like to give people a feel for what your market is. I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she has plenty of houses in her market for 120, 150,000. But a lot of markets, she's much more rural, and she's in Tennessee. Whereas having looked at where Fort Mill is on the map, you are very kind of suburban, which makes a big difference.
Yeah, if you're coming to North Carolina or South Carolina, and you choose not to be close to a major market, if you choose not to live close to Raleigh or Charlotte or Greenville, South Carolina, or Charleston or Wilmington, and you're further out, yes, the affordability is much greater, but also the opportunity for employment and decent wages is greatly reduced. So, in order to have great wages and great employment, you really need to be closer to the city, but you will pay, for housing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so what about property taxes? How are your property taxes higher?
So we do have state income tax here, and we do have sales tax. So that's how we have the states retain and produce an income for the states. Property taxes are pretty reasonable. In South Carolina, Governor Sanford, about, I don't know how many years ago this was, maybe 15, reduced property taxes for owner-occupied homes to approximately 50% of what they were. So our tax base for the area went down to about 0.5%. So on a $300,000 home, it was roughly $1,500 a year for taxes, which is so reasonable. However, where I live in Fort Mill, TDK, schools are our number one priority, and our growth is huge. It is huge. When I moved to TDK, it was 3,500 people. Right now, it's close to 15,000. So we're growing. And the one thing people will vote in every single time is a referendum for our schools, to build new schools, to expand our schools. So property taxes now are probably closer to like 0.75, still less than 1%, which is really reasonable. And they have not assessed in a while, but they do, unlike California, they do reassess property values here, usually every 8 years or so. I don't know how they're going to handle this current boom, because I personally feel like a lot of these prices are artificially inflated. So I hope if they do anything, they'll go back to more of 2018-19 pricing, when common sense actually prevailed in our market. But property taxes are reasonable. I know that my husband's from Texas, and property taxes, they are exorbitant. It's also because they don't have state income tax. So the states have to make their money from somewhere. So you have good roads, good schools. So and I think Florida is the same way. So I know they're higher tax states, and I know from the Northeast, that's the reason so many are relocating, is because their property taxes are just outrageous in the Northeast.
Yes, and they also have income tax in most of the northeastern states. So
they have everything. They have all taxes in the Northeast.
It's kind of like California, where you're taxed on. It feels like you're taxed on everything.
It's pretty tax friendly here. It's pretty tax friendly. They're even working on something to protect your retirement income from taxes now. They're working on that in the Senate.
Well, so you mentioned that the taxes go to fund the schools, and schools are a big thing. So tell me a little bit about the schools in the areas, and do you have colleges as well?
Oh my goodness, our schools are nationally ranked. I know people as a whole laugh and say that Southern schools are at the bottom of the list. Let me tell you, I put both my kids up against any of the kids from any other school in the United States for the education they got in Fort Mill schools. My daughter graduated cum laude from Clemson in just 3 years because of how well prepared she was from Fort Mill schools. And she wasn't even considered at the top of the class. Very competitive group of kids. She missed the South Carolina school. South Carolina actually offers 3 different types of scholarships, and they're all based on grades. All you really need to have is a 3.0, and then I believe the SAT score is 1200. I can't remember the ACT score, but the scholarships average, I believe, from 2,500 to 7,500. The catch is you have to use those funds in the state of South Carolina. So it has to go to one of our schools. We have fabulous universities. My daughter and son went to Clemson. They both got to experience the national championship winning teams. My daughter was a rally cat there, which is one of their dance team members. So super fun experience. University of South Carolina is fabulous in Columbia. It's about an hour and a half from our area. They have an internationally recognized international business school there. They also have a great medical school, University of South Carolina. And then we have other great colleges. You've got private universities like Furman that are ranked at the highest in the United States. Wofford's private, and College of Charleston, and Coastal Carolina. We have lots of universities.
And then in your area, do you have like community colleges as well? Because I know a lot of people go to community college first, get their kind of basics out of the way, and then transfer.
We have a great one here in Rock Hill in York County. We have a great school. York Tech is what they call it. Great school. And they even offer things like real estate classes if someone wants to go to get a real estate license.
Wow. So you have everything. And I know you mentioned earlier that you have obviously all the retail and shops and everything. So you get the benefits of being close to Charlotte and a big area.
You know, so the only thing I really miss about California is really good Mexican food, because we don't have really good Mexican food. It's okay, but it's not. California Mexican is the best. Other than that, we have everything. We have amazing restaurants. Downtown Charlotte, there are so many great eclectic restaurants that a lot of people from the Northeast that were restaurateurs came down and opened up their businesses here. So a lot of great, authentic Italian or authentic Philly steak sandwiches, authentic, really good Chicago pizza. So we're not lacking on anything here. Plus, we do have our beaches. Granted, it's 3.5 hours for me to drive to a beach, but I can go to an absolutely gorgeous beach in Charleston or Hilton Head or Beaufort, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. I can head north and go to Wilmington. Beaches are expansive. The whole coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, all beaches. And when you have that much shoreline, there's a lot of great places to visit.
Yeah, and also the water's warm. So I mean, we always used to go to Hilton Head, and so when we first moved to California, because I live in the Central Valley, I live near Stockton, and so when we first moved here, it was like 110 degrees. So we thought, well, we'll go over towards the Bay Area and go to the beach, presuming. I mean, I knew it would be cooler, but I didn't realize just how cold the water was, even at the height of summer. And there were very few people in the ocean, whereas on the East Coast in summer, the water just seems so much warmer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember running into the ocean the first time when I was in California, thinking it was like going to the beach in South Carolina. A little shock to the system.
Yeah. But it's that's what I love about living different places, is everywhere is different. And building a fire on a beach in California, that was something my kids thought was just the most amazing thing. Because you would never build a fire on a beach in the on the East Coast, because it would just be way too hot at night.
Exactly. Yeah, California does have beautiful beaches. I think Laguna Beach was always my favorite place to go. If I had a day off during the week and I just wanted to go be myself somewhere beautiful, I'd drive down to Laguna. It was spectacular.
Yeah, but I think someone said to me that, as long as you live near some kind of water, and in the South, the lakes take the place of the beach. You're still on the water, you're still getting that relaxing kind of feel, but you just substitute the lake for the ocean.
We haven't even talked about the mountains. The mountains are only an hour and a half from here. If you want to go tubing down the river in the mountains, we did that last year for a birthday. That was so much fun. Just taking a tube down the river. It was about a 3-hour tubing trip with our cooler right behind us. It was great. The mountains are spectacular here. Looks very, very different than California mountains because we again have a lot of rain, so it's very densely forested, deep green, a lot of deciduous trees. And the Blue Ridge Parkway is just amazing.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I wanted to talk just quickly about commute times, because obviously you are, would you consider yourself suburban? I mean, are you like suburban Charlotte, or are you, what, just from
I consider myself suburban Charlotte. When I first moved here, we were a very small suburb of Charlotte. At the time, we had one high school, 2 middle schools, and I think 2 elementary schools. Well, now we have 3 high schools. I don't know how many middle and elementary schools, and our population has either tripled or quadrupled since I moved here. So yes, I consider this suburban. We have a lot of new subdivisions, a lot of new development.
Which is good, as you know, that you want that growth, and obviously for the people who want to move there, they need those houses.
Oh,
but in terms of commute time, so if someone was working in Charlotte, what's the kind of commute time?
Okay, so for example, before all of the growth, so I'm going to just put a year on it, 2016. So prior to 2016, my commute into my office in Charlotte was about 23 to 25 minutes. So after that, with all of the growth, especially probably around 2018, 19, that doubled to about 45 minutes in Charlotte. Okay. So you need to allow at least 50 minutes to get to uptown Charlotte now. And there are many multiple ways into and out of. But traffic is real here. We've been discovered, and we have Californians that are relocating here, but the majority of our growth, I think approximately 60% of our incoming newcomers are from the Northeast. It is a very large number. You know, they like our winters here. They're leaving the snow behind.
Yes, yeah, I can see. Well, well, that's good, because I always like to know just what commute times are. But obviously, you have employers around Fort Mill, so you wouldn't necessarily have to go into Charlotte to work.
There's so many different employment opportunities in so many different areas. So you have the ability to work in Fort Mill. You have the ability to work in Rock Hill, which is just south of Charlotte, another large city. If you're working in Rock Hill and you're leaving from Fort Mill, you're fine. You're never going to deal with any traffic because you're totally opposite the traffic pattern. But we have a lot of major employers. We have 2 major hospitals here, Atrium and Novant. Those are both the hospital programs that are here. They're huge. We also have banking. Wells Fargo and Bank of America are also headquartered here. And then we have a lot of technology, IBM, Cisco, Amazon, and then we have US Airways. So employment is never a problem.
Wonderful. Well, I feel like we've covered most things about your area. Anything else that you would like to add? Anything you feel we haven't covered?
Gosh, I think I've talked a whole lot about all of the benefits. I mean, I absolutely love it. I have zero regrets for leaving California. I miss my friends. I still stay in touch with my friends, but you know, it is an adjustment. I will tell everyone when they make that move, no matter where you're moving from, really, but especially from California to somewhere like this, where you're so far from home and you're so far from all that you know. It is an adjustment, and that first year is tough. It took me about a year. I mean, it took about a year, and after I had settled in, made friends, and gotten to know my way out of the driveway, and got settled, I just fell head over heels in love and have no regrets. But it's a big change. You need a positive attitude, and you really need to embrace your new area. That first year, my husband and I traveled. Just, you know, I wasn't real busy in real estate because I didn't know anybody. So we took our motorhome and we just went to different places and got to know both North and South Carolina, and just fell in love with both states.
I think as long as you accept that you're not instantly going to drop into a new community and it's going to be just like where you left, if you understand that it's a process, and it's also, it depends on you. I mean, the more that you put yourself out there, the faster you make friends.
It's just hard. The initial, you're going to be lonely. You're going to question because it's new. You're starting over. So it's just human nature to have some questions, but always remember there is a reason you left. Keep that in the back of your head. There is a reason you left. Focus on that and move towards it. And then just really, you know what, give your new state a chance, just like you gave California a chance. Most of you know, people were born there, so they don't know anything different. So this is their first big acclimation to something new. So go out and explore. And, you know, as far as kids go, my kids were so young when we left, you know, 6 months, 2 years, they didn't have any opinions, and which is very helpful. They weren't school age, especially like middle or high school. I think that would be harder. But we do have some amazing schools here. And the biggest thing that I find that you need to tell your kids if you're moving from there to here is we are such a transient area with so many newcomers coming in. They're going to be one of many new kids. They're not going to be an anomaly. They're going to fit right in.
Well, my kids are middle school age, and so they were old. They were 4th and 5th grade when we moved to Florida, and then they were 7th and 8th grade when we moved here. And I just started conditioning them early on about what an amazing experience this would be, how cool it would be to the new kids, to be the new kids, you know, because when you walk into a new school, instead of being scared to be the new kid because you don't know anyone, I just conditioned them that everybody would want to talk to them because they were the new kid, because they've had the same old friends for the last, you know, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Well, why not be friends with someone new? And it was all about their attitude. And so they adapt very easily. They see a new school as 600 new friends rather than 600 people they don't know. So, well, wonderful. So if someone wants to work with you, what is the best way to contact you?
I respond to all. You can Google me and find my contact information. I respond to phone and text pretty much immediately. Email, several times a day I check email, usually 4 to 6 times daily. But I always have my phone. I have my phone here. I just have it on silent right now. But I'm very responsive. The only time there might be a slight delay in getting back to you is if I'm out with other people. When I have people in my car and I'm showing property, I try to be very courteous and give them the full attention they need. And I consider myself, I tell everyone, so when buyers relocate from another area and they're coming in, I try to advise them to do it in 2 trips. I love for them to come in the first time. Just give me a day. Let's get out. Let's go in the car. Start around 9:30. Let me just take you around. Let me show you maybe 5 to 6 houses, not a lot of houses, but let me show you the best of York County, or if we're looking in Charlotte or wherever. And then, you know, once they fine tune and figure out where they think they want to come call home, then when they come back in, I want at least 3 days to really show them their choices, neighborhoods, communities, potential to build. Do you want to go further out? Do you want to be in the country? Would you rather be closer to Charlotte? You know, what exactly you're looking for, because it is such a big move and I want them to have 100% confidence in what they're doing. So I really like 2 trips. That's what we did. We did 2 trips.
And that's wonderful. But presumably if someone could do it in one or had to buy sight unseen, I mean, we moved to California and we were in Texas before we even started looking for places to rent. And renting is very different to buying. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we moved to Tampa. I'd never been to Tampa before. And I just thought, well, it sounds nice. So presumably if someone says, yes, I want this house, you could do like a virtual walkthrough. You could buy it sight unseen.
I have an iPhone, so I've done many FaceTime showings, and I'm pretty good at that now. My kids made me get an iPhone. That was an interesting learning curve, but I had mastered it. And I typically like to start from the street, because I cannot tell you how many horror stories I've heard of people buying sight unseen when all they did was look at the house and not the outlying areas or little things that you would miss. Yes. So I am very hard on houses. I have very good eyes still, 20/20 vision. And I also am acutely aware of the intrinsic type of problems that we have in our market and our houses compared to what I had to deal with in California. Yeah. We don't have, the problems are very different because our climate is moist, humid, a lot of rain. California, very dry, very arid, different types of termites and things that cause problems there that don't cause problems here. So it's a unique market, but you really, that's one thing. If I were in a car with an agent as a new buyer looking anywhere, I would ask them, what are your most common problems you see in home inspections?
All right. It's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to post all your contact information in the comments wherever you're watching this video. And thank you so much.
You're welcome. I enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you. It's been extremely informative.